I want to bring in retired Major General Spider Marks, founder and president of the Marks Collaborative, head of geopolitical strategy at Academy Securities, and director for Allied Critical Metals. It's good to have you back. So, obviously, we saw a quick reaction from the markets. It was positive when, the president said, we're going to stop this and we're having talks. But you just heard David lay out very clearly and very importantly the complications of that. So after hearing what you heard from both sides today, there we see the Dow up 600 plus points. Where does that leave people who are wondering if we are close to an off-ramp in this war?
Well, I tell you, David's analysis was spot on, very broad, incredibly well done. So thank you for that. I think where we are is, look, there are really three things that we have to embrace. Number one is this Iranian regime is not going anywhere. This may be, as we would say, possibly describe, this is the hill they're going to die on. Look, they're incredibly weakened, but they still have the capacity to resist. I don't know what they're going to agree to going forward. What is the off-ramp that they're looking for? What's the off-ramp that the United States and Israel is looking for? So we got to focus in on the regime and how do they perceive themselves going forward? And David talked about this. Look, the theocratic side of that. Look, the IRGC exists to protect the revolution. So do they now embody the revolution? Because we haven't seen the theocracy, right? We haven't seen Mustafa Khamenei. There's no proof of life there. So we know there's immense struggle going on. So in terms of who might the United States be talking to, it's obviously somebody with the senior leadership of the IRGC, I would imagine. The second thing to think about is decisions in terms of where the campaign goes, this maritime and air campaign that the United States and Israel has taken on over the course of 4 weeks now. That is all decisions about how this thing progresses, Chris. These are political decisions. I've argued that the military objectives, albeit never clearly stated, really kind of focused in on the nukes and the proxies and the ballistic missile capabilities. Those were achieved, I think, in terms of setting them back probably by another 5 to 8, maybe even 10 years. Those were achieved probably after 96 plus hours. We're now over our skis. In other words, we had strategic clarity with tactical brilliance, and now we're a little bit lost. And we've got these great successes that have been achieved, but toward what end? And then the third thing is, when you do look at the military, look, you got 5,000 Marines showing up, immense capacity to do some incredible damage, to survive, to execute operations across the shore. That's all about leverage. What they're specifically going to do, we could walk through the options, but they've got to be able to be there and they need to be on station. That makes it crystal clear to the regime that at least we've got the capacity. And the one thing within that is, if those Marines or any land forces are going to be used to secure the highly enriched uranium, that becomes a soldier and personnel suck. It will just eat up manpower. So the 5,000 would be insufficient in order to get that done, unless there was some agreement that was reached. I'm not saying that's the case. So we got to be very careful about, very clear-eyed, I think, in terms of understanding that the Marines and that presence and the fact that manpower and maritime capabilities are not going to be decreased, they're going to be increased. That's all about leverage.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of questions, right? How far is President Trump, willing to go, and under what circumstances? He's threatening now to obliterate Iran's power plants if they don't reopen the Strait of Hormuz in 5 days. Let me play some of what the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, had to say about that.
The president is not messing around. He stands, unlike his predecessors, he stands by his red lines, and he's not going to allow this genocidal regime to hold the world's energy supplies or economies hostage.
So to your point, has Trump backed himself kind of into a corner militarily, that there needs to be so much of an escalation to get what he says he wants, or maybe even what the Israelis laid out that has to happen? Or does anyone even really know what his red line is?
I don't think so. That's the challenge. I mean, if I look at it, I'm trying to be clear-eyed here. We either maintain the pressure of the campaign we have right now, which is very costly, and obviously there are political implications to that. You keep talking, trying to work some type of diplomatic solution. You leave, you just say, adios, we've accomplished what we need to accomplish, and we're prepared to depart, or you escalate. And that's the big one. Are we going to escalate this thing that again, and I can't speak, Chris, to those political pressures that our president has to deal with, but they're very obvious, right? We've got a midterm coming up. We've got how much longer are we going to be there? We're moving through a circumstance now where there is domestic pressure he has to deal with. And this Iranian regime and the United States are, they measure themselves against two entirely different standards. Iran has no domestic, anything that they care about. They just want to survive. And then you look at the United States, they've got multiple constituencies that they have to take care of, both globally and domestically. And it becomes very, very difficult. I don't see the regime giving up. I don't see the regime giving in. I mean, without being too flippant, it's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where it's 'tis but a scratch. They're getting their arms and legs cut off, but they're going to hang in there. And I think they're going to be able to hang in there for a couple of years, minimally.
Major General Spider Marks, thank you so much.